Welcome back, everyone. In this video, our goal is to learn about the various painting restrictions you have access to. These right here in our landscape paint tab, these painting restrictions right here. And we're going to learn how we can utilize these to maximize our landscape painting efficiency. Now, in short, these restrictions that I'm about to show you are a way to prevent yourself from overdoing it by painting more layers onto your landscape components, which are these squarish sections, than is necessary. The more layers you paint onto a given landscape component, the more it's going to cost you in terms of performance. The fewer layers that you paint onto a component, the more performant your game will be. And obviously, you want your game to be performant and run at 120 frames per second, don't you? Don't you? Of course you do. All right. Before we get started talking about these painting restrictions here, I wanted to make mention of one thing inside of our M material created, or if you took the shortcut, your M landscape material. And I did mention this in the last videos as well. Please open them up. And I've got my M material created open up here. Here is the pathway in case you lost your way. And for any texture sample node contained within this monstrous node network, it doesn't matter if it is a texture sample of a normal map or any of these diffuse textures or any of these variation textures, all of them, please set the sampler source to shared wrap. And again, this is to avoid the limitation out of the box of having just a few layers that you can apply to a given landscape component. If you do not do this, then it doesn't even matter if you have painting restrictions set here or not. You will be limited to just a few layers per component. But with this set to shared wrap for all your different texture samples, you have up to 128 different layers that you can paint onto a single component, which is pretty nice. Okay, on to our different painting restrictions. Our first one is the painting restriction of none, meaning we can paint these landscape layers on any component we want. That is the default setting. There are no restrictions whatsoever. Simple enough. Next painting restriction, if we click this drop-down box, is limit layer count. And with this selected, this will respect over with our landscape actor selected in the world outliner. This will respect the max painted layers per component parameter that you will find when your landscape actor is selected. You'll find that a little ways underneath the landscape material. So if you set it to something other than 0, so let me just set it to, say, 1, you'll see that my brush now turns red because I've already got some grass out there. I can't paint another layer on there. Let me set this to 2. Now my brush turns white, indicating that, hey, it is okay to paint another layer. I've got mud selected here, so let me just go ahead and left click and put some mud on here. Now let me grab some, gravel, and my brush turns red once again because it says I can paint only up to 2 layers per component. It's red here. However, let me go back to my mud. I can come to this component, this square up here, and I could paint some mud up there. That's fine because that is the second layer per component, these square sections. Okay, I'm just gonna hit Control Z here a few times. Next one in our list of painting restrictions, we have existing layers only. So you can see when I've done that, my brush has immediately turned to red. And what this means is I can only paint any existing layers that already exist on their components. So gravel, no. Path, no. Can't do that. Grass, yeah, I could, even though it's grass on grass. Let me just change this back to none for the time being. I'll put a little mud back onto this landscape component. Now if I switch this painting restriction to existing layers only, if I choose mud, I can't do it on this component because there's no mud. However, if I come over to this component, my brush turns to white, saying, hey, there's already some existing mud here, so yes, you can apply some mud on here as well. Next up, we have component whitelist. And what this allows you to do, this is a way to specify which layers are allowed to be painted on a given landscape component. Only the ones that you allow. And we can do this by coming over to our Manage button over here. Under our list of tools on the left-hand side, make sure you've got your selection tool selected, which we already had. And now I can select a given landscape component or components by changing my brush size to a bigger size. I will leave it 1 by 1. And I'll select this one front and center. Boom, it is now selected. And now down in my details panel, I will find a layer whitelist. And currently, I've got a grass layer present on there. That is in the whitelist. So is my mud layer, my path layer, and my rock layer. The reason I have some rock and path as well is because when I deleted out some of my other layers, I didn't fully delete out my rock and my path layer. They are actually in existence, although albeit very faint underneath the grass. So let's just say, now I went back to paint mode, and you can see these are the things that I am allowed to paint on this component. So let me see, can I paint some rock on here? I've got it selected. My brush is white, saying yes, I can. I can't paint it on this component. However, this one I can. What about snow? I don't see any snow on my whitelist, so if I select that and try to paint it, nope, my brush is red. If I go to my layer whitelist, click the plus button, and now I add my snow on there. Let's do a search for snow layer. I gotta make sure I select the right pathway here. I'm gonna select that one in my game landscape materials folder. Now you can see my brush turns white, meaning I can paint it on there. This is a new material that a new texture that I'm painting onto my component here. That is why it is compiling shaders. And there you see some white applied. So guys, that is going to do painting restrictions in a nutshell. It is a way to restrict yourself as to how many layers you paint per component, because the fewer components or the fewer layers that you paint per component, the more performant your game will be. That'll do it all for this one, guys. We will see you in the next one.